Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us again for episode 9 of The Art of the Possible. In keeping with our theme of inspiration, energy, and forward thinking, today we have a guest that is inspiring, energetic, and I hope I will be able to do all the things that this man has done in his lifetime. Things like he started 6 companies. 2 of those were sold off to Wall Street organizations. He's got 30 years of experience. Not only has he got the experience, but he's published countless #1 Amazon books. I think we're going to talk about a couple of those today. But that's just a few of the things he's done. That's just the professional side. Let's talk about on his personal side. I was just updated that he's now up to 97 marathons all around the world, and I think I'll let him talk about it. An incredible person. I can tell you from our founders, Paul and Steve, that's how I was connected with Jack Daly. They're very good friends, certainly inspirational. I can tell you that my success, I attribute a lot of that to Jack and attending one of his training classes. When I left there, I was ready to take on the world. So I want to welcome Jack Daly to the show today. Thanks, Jack. How are you?
Phil, I am fantastic. And when you brought up the name of Paul and Steve, all automatically, I went right back to the very first time that I met them. I was delivering a 3-hour program focused on business owners and CEOs. And these 2 guys walked into the room and sat in the back with their military uniforms on, which was just completely out of character with the other 30 CEOs that were in the room. And I did my thing. And at the end, they came up to me and I'm wondering if I'm going to be court-martialed. What's the military doing in here? And they said, hey, we're starting off a company. And we heard that you were in town and that you were somewhat of an expert at helping companies grow. And we just sat here and wanted to get a dose of Jack Daly. And now we're saying, holy mackerel, can you really help us in growing? Do you have time for lunch and we can talk about what we want to do with Federal Conference? And that's how it all started.
Well, I can see why. I know that with Paul and Steve, there certainly have been inspiration, and the 3 of you coming together has certainly created great companies and great experiences for people. And I forgot to mention that you are former captain of the U.S. Army, so thank you for your service, sir.
Absolutely.
So, today we're coming out of COVID and we're coming out of the pandemic and things are opening up. Our industry, the hospitality industry, the exhibits industry, we were hit the hardest, right? Along with restaurants. And so people are going back to in-person programs, and a lot of people have been furloughed for the past year and a half. They were, let go and they haven't had jobs, and now they're coming back, but they're coming back to environments that, they're doing more with less. And it's hard. Let me tell you something. I've been on the hotel side, and those are some hardworking people. And now they're asked to do like, hey, I've got all these leads coming in and I don't have the same staffing. So I'm hoping today, Jack, you can talk a little bit about getting people back and fired up, getting people inspired, and talk about your playbook, because that is like the best thing since sliced bread, and I'll throw in butter with that, But yeah, I mean, like that's really today's topic is how do we get people back inspired? How do we get people prepped and ready to go? And let me just say, there are a lot of people out there that do seminars, right, on sales and that sort of stuff. I'll tell you from personal experience, Jack, you are the best. Like when you walk out of that class, it's certainly inspirational. So what are some of the tips from the playbook, Jack?
Well, I appreciate the comment and the compliment. Look, I certainly am well aware of the challenges in the hospitality and the hotel business and the conference business. I want you to think about if you think that business is hard hit, think about my business. And I'm not dismissing or diminishing anything that's going on in the hospitality sector, but I'm a professional speaker. In 2019, pre-pandemic, I logged 225,000 air miles and was in over 30 countries addressing audiences in the hundreds and in the thousands. And so we go into lockdown in March, and all of a sudden, nobody's flying anywhere. And large groups are out as well. And I'm like, holy mackerel, my whole business just went under.
Yeah.
What do I do? And so, I've worked with clients. I'm a CEO coach of many clients around the world, and I've been in hand with them, as well as relaunching my business, navigating through this pandemic. And so the first thing that I could tell you, Phil, that's so important is 50% or more of success in any dimension, in anything in life, has nothing to do with the product, the price, the service, the strategies, or the tactics, or as you called it, the playbook. 50% or more of success has to do with the 6 inches between our ears. It's attitude, right? And so we can go into the dumpster with our attitude and say, woe is me, there's no options. Or we can say, okay, I'm confronted with this situation. How do I navigate through it? And, the good news is, as we are on the broadcast today, we're coming out of the pandemic. So if you've made it this far, I say good times are ahead. In fact, I can tell you, I came in last night for my first live gig in about 15 months. And it was in St. Louis, and I live in California. And my plane ride back went from St. Louis to Denver, and a plane change in Denver to Orange County, California. And when I was in Denver, that airport, I've never seen as crowded as it was yesterday. And the hotel that we delivered the 2-day program on Tuesday and Wednesday, it was lively, it was active, it was busy, and it had multiple companies delivering conferences again. And so, we can go back in time and talk about how difficult it was. But I think a good bit of that is behind us. So let me just go on for just a little bit more. Focus on that which you have control of. That's really, really a real gem from my standpoint. I've watched the speakers of the world, professional speakers, moaning and groaning over the last 15 months about how they can't pay their bills, and they can't do this and they can't do that because of what I mentioned: no flights and no audiences. Well, I didn't have that situation. I was in the same environment, but I pivoted and I navigated through it. For example, I was doing a small amount of CEO coaching over the phone with just a handful of clients. Well, since I'm benched and I've got to stay at home, I expanded my coaching clients. And so now I have a portfolio of close to 20, where I only had maybe 4 or 5 previously. So I replaced that income. Now, in addition to that, I then flipped to doing virtual presentations. And I built a studio with a professional person that came in and helped me with professional lighting, audio, video. I'm not broadcasting today from my studio. That's in another room in the house. This is from my office today, but it's loaded with the top of the line gear. And in fact, by June of last year, I ended up setting a Guinness World Record for delivering to the largest business virtual conference of 21,261 people. Wow. I'm 72 years old, and I'm resilient. I'm going to find a way to go and do the things that I can do, given that the environment. Now, let's talk about that virtual conferences and presentation. Previous to the pandemic, the maximum number of speaking gigs that I would take on in a year would be 100. I didn't want to spend more than 100 nights in hotels for business. However, when I flipped it into the virtual world, well, let's just take January of this year. 17 speaking gigs virtually in January alone. I would never have taken that on pre-pandemic. And so I cut out the travel and was still able to deliver the value to my clients. And I needed to learn how to do that in a virtual world. And I can tell you, my first couple tries at virtual were not very good. Talking in a room by yourself for 3, 4, or 5 or 6 hours. But I can tell you that the grades that I'm getting now from my audiences, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being best, I'm straight 5s. but I've learned how to kind of navigate again through that technology in order to deliver the goods. So those were all things that were controllable by me. And as you mentioned, I've written several books. I then took the pandemic and said, well, if you're going to bench me, you know what? I might as well write another book. And so
Jack,
nobody's out at the end of the year.
Jack, nobody's benching you. Like, that's not even humanly possible to bench you. So what I'm hearing you say, Jack, is you invested in yourself. You took control of things, right? So I think from a takeaway perspective, it's really about invest in yourself, do what you need to do to invest and make sure you're set up for success, right? And that goes to your playbook.
Absolutely. So 8 years ago, I wrote a book called Hyper Sales Growth. And it met with incredible reception in the marketplace. And in there, I made the case for building a playbook. And when I talk about a playbook, systems and processes that will enable you to win new customers, grow the ones you got, and install best practices. And so, I look at successful people, and I look at successful companies, and I also look at successful sports teams. And every successful sports team has a successful playbook, and they practice. And so taking the time to figure out what are the things that we can do and then anchoring them with practice, that is the way to get the job done. So I get the hospitality business. I get that we have been, really challenged in those last 15 months. The key now, though, is with limited resources, because resources have been cut back. With limited resources and being asked to do more with less, how do we navigate through that? That is the current pandemic challenge within the hospitality business. And so what I say is this: people and companies tend to underperform to their capabilities because we rush to the urgent at the expense of the important. And so what we need to figure out in the hospitality sector when we're working in there is, what is it of all of the things that we're being asked to do? What are the things that are the most important? Don't get caught up rushing to the urgent. Sit down and reflect and build your plan for success. Wayne Gretzky said it better than me, and that is, he never went after the puck. He went to the section of the ice where the puck was going to be going to. And so in our hospitality challenge, that's, I think, a good mantra for us to have.
Yep. Absolutely. And so from that, then, what are some of because the beauty of what you do is that you can apply it to any industry, right? So when it comes to sales, obviously you've got the passion, the enthusiasm. I think the question becomes, we're going to identify what's important, but then from there, what are sort of the next steps that you would sort of go through, to kind of write your own, so maybe I'm at a hotel that I don't have those resources, and I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you, and I'm like, well, that's great. What else would I would do, Jack? Like, what else would what else can I take away from this?
Well, if I'm looking to sell, if I'm looking to garner business, I can tell you that as much as you might think that people know that you're available or that you're trying to procure business, the majority of them don't even know you exist. There was a study done, and it said this, that it takes 9 touches before your prospect knows that you are even out there. And most salespeople quit at 5 or less. And so you've invested time, money, and energy, and no one even has heard you. Now, a touch is any way that you reach out and let somebody know that you exist. It can be as simple as an email. It can be as simple as a voicemail, a phone call, a personal visit, snail mail. And so one of the things that we put in the Sales Playbook was build your touch system and mix up the mediums in which you're going after your marketplace. But the most important thing that I can tell you is that don't fall into the mistake that most people do. And that is, the content of your touches be all about selling. That would be a mistake, because people don't want to be sold. So what we have to do is we have to figure out how to mix it up with things beyond our product, beyond our service, beyond the piece of business that we're trying to procure. And so helping them with ideas on how they could be better at their business. Going onto the web and surfing for solutions for the problems that our prospects and customers are trying to wrestle down, touching them with personal things. I can tell you, Phil, that when the pandemic first hit on March 31st, I sat at my desk with an old legal pad and just started writing down the names of people that I thought could benefit from hearing from me with a very positive attitude, and just give them a big hug over the phone. I ended up writing down 1,000 phone numbers and people's names, and then just started knocking off the list in April and May. The number of people that came back to me and said, "Hey, Jack, I don't have any work for you to do right now. I'm just trying to stay alive. But I want to tell you, whatever prompted you to call me today, I needed a Jack Daly fix like nobody needed your fix today. And I'll remember you for the rest of time. When business returns, we're going to be calling you." And so, that's planting the seed. It wasn't Jack trying to get hired. It was thinking about other people and how I could be helpful to them, because the law of reciprocity is real. Yeah. And so, do for others and they will do for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really, to be honest, Jack, and you know this better than anybody, that's been our mantra on here, right? It's always about helping someone. At the end of the day, sales is about helping people achieve their goals and success, right? So, and that's what you're saying. I think that's another takeaway is just, be out there to help people. I can tell you, I took your class 3 years ago. And to this day, one of the things that I found most impactful is send out card, is, taking that picture, sending it to them with a personal note, because no one does it anymore, right? It's all about the email, but getting a card that's personalized to your experience has been so impactful. And I still do that 3 years later.
Good for you. Yeah. Good for you. The biggest complaint I have, Phil, about people that attend my sessions is knowing how well the stuff works and how so few people take action, right? I can tell you, when this thing gets a LinkedIn message or it gets an email message, I hit the delete button so often that I'm burning out the screen, right? but the snail mail that comes with the U.S. Postal Service, I don't care what it is, I open it. And so it's a weird thing. I'm not suggesting that everything that's coming in snail mail is worth keeping or worth reading, but I at least open it. I'm just going through and hitting that delete button like a crazy man, because people are pretending they know me on emails. They're pretending they know me on LinkedIn. And hey, how's it going there, Jack? And by the way, my name formally is John, and I get people that are calling me John, and I'm like, what the heck? And they're pretending to know me. Really? I mean, look, selling, at the end of the day, selling is the transfer of trust. People do business with people they trust. The beauty of working with a federal conference and Paul and Steve, it's two guys that I've known for so long, but here's the deal. You could tell right from the first meeting that you could trust those guys, and they're acting in your behalf, in your best interest. And so, whatever capacity that they're interacting with the public, or whether it's their employees or whether it's their prospects or their clients, these are guys that go to bat for those other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And, to your point, and we're trying that, right? So, with federal conference, we do registration, we do housing and event planning. And to your point, we're now launching incentive travel. We're going out there to help corporations and associations that need that incentive travel to be managed and procured for them. So we're trying to push forward. We're looking at the things that are important. And that seems to be an area that we're trying to push out on. And, we're trying to follow your playbook. So, it's about pushing forward. So we've got about 10 minutes left yet, Jack. And I cut you off early, and I apologize. You were talking about your book you're launching. Could you share that again? I apologize.
No, it's fine.
Because I want to buy it. I want to pre-sell. I want to pre-purchase that.
So I lead a very full life. I would tell anybody that's listening in here, go to my website. It's jackdalysales.com. jackdalysales.com. There's so much free stuff. There's hundreds and hundreds of videos on there on selling and on sales management, on business growth. You can download them. I have 4 magazines that I published called Get Jack. They're free. You can download them. There's so much on that website that can help people. But I would also tell you, I open up my personal life to the public. My goals are on there, my personal goals for the year. But my bucket list is on there. And there's over 300 items on my bucket list, of which 75% I've completed. And, I put them on there because it's amazing how many people come out of the woodwork and say, hey, have you got this one done? Because I can help you with that. I'm trying to play the top 100 golf courses in the United States. I've played 95 of them. The number of people that came up to me and said, hey, have you played this one? I can get you on. But if I don't broadcast and tell them, no one can know that I want to do it, so they can't help me. So I've had literally thousands of people say, you've led an incredible life. I wish I could live just a portion of that life like that. And so I've written a book. The working title right now is Jack Daly's Life by Design. And it takes you through some of my journey. And it also takes you through the process, the playbook, the systems, the processes, the discipline that you should follow in order to lead an exceptional life. And my publisher, and this will be my 10th book, my publisher said, you know what, your last 3 books were the #1 best-selling business book on Amazon. This book is going to trumpet big time in terms of the positive impact, the legacy that you're going to leave in the world as a result of this book. So we're hoping to have it out by the end of the year. And I was encouraged by people that this is a great time to put it out, because so many of us who've gotten locked down in the pandemic, we're revisiting what we want our life to look like going forward. Yep. So this book will really assist you in being able to do that. And let me add one more thing on this, Phil. I started the process that's followed in this book when I was 13 years old. And I'm 72, and I'm still following the process essentially that I built at 13 as a result of interviewing over 200 successful business people.
Did you, this could have been a rumor, and I'm sorry, did you have a quote on your book from someone?
Yeah. Simon Sinek is a good friend of mine. And I think an awful lot of people know who he is these days. His first book, The Start With Why, I laugh all the time because he asked me if I wanted to co-author the book with him. And that's the book that put him on the map. And I said, Simon, I just don't have the time. I'm so busy with what I'm doing. And so, that makes, that's in my top 5 regrets that I didn't join him in that journey, given he's in the top 10 guys in terms of the TED Talks. Yep. And his book has gone on to meteoric success. But yeah, so I sent him a copy of the book about a week ago, and he said, hey, if you can use this blurb in any way, I'd love people to read the book because it's all about inspiring people to go to the next level. And so do you mind if I read?
No, I would love it because I'd love to hear it.
Here's what he said. Thank God Jack Daly exists. For decades, we hired Jack to teach us how to sell better. Yet, all the while, what he was actually teaching us was how to be better human beings. Most of us have wondered about how he got to be the way he is, with the hope that we can try to be even a fraction more like him. This is the book that tells us, and anyone who wants to be a better version of themselves needs to read it. Yeah. So that was his thoughts after reading the book. I was really encouraged to get that quote. So.
Yeah, no, and it's true. It's very true. So just to sort of recap a little bit and make sure we've captured, some good takeaways for folks that are tuned in today. From the pandemic, some lessons learned is really reinvest in yourself, right? And focus on what you have control over in your life that will make you successful moving forward. In addition to that, focus on what's important and not what could you repeat that one for me one more time? Because I loved it.
Yeah. People and companies tend to rush to the urgent at the expense of the important, right?
Yep.
I tell you that while this may sound a little squishy, what I started with, which was 50%, is up here. Our attitude. People ask me all the time. Hey, how you doing? I'm at conferences. It happened the last 2 days in St. Louis. How you doing? How you doing? And I'm like, fantastic. And they're taken back by the remark. And I go, well, we get a choice, don't we? We get a choice every day. We can choose to get taken down attitudinally, or we can choose to be an upbeat person. I have a practice where I don't start the day by turning the TV on and looking at the news, because all they peddle is negativity. I structure my day such that the first thing that I'm doing on the business side is an easy win. Like I'm going to make a call to somebody that's going to jack me up, to make me feel good. I'm going to make a call on a prospect that I know is close to saying yes, and today has a high probability of doing that. I'm going to position myself to have a successful start to my day, because what happens after that is it starts to build momentum. And so I'm all about keeping my head straight no matter what. People have asked me, Phil, how do you deal with being in the airport so much? It's so frenetic and all the rest of that. And I said, gosh, it's calm and quiet for me. The airports I go to don't have any people in them. And they look at me like I'm a freak, and maybe I am. But mentally, what I do is this. I just mentally go to a place and I take all of the noise and the people out. That kinetic energy usually is going to not do me very well. So what I do is I stay focused. Focus precedes success. And I stay focused on the things I have control over, and I stay on what I call high payoff activities. What are the most important things that I should be working on? And the rest of it, I don't get concerned about not getting to the end of the to-do list.
Yep. And then another one I thought that was really a good takeaway, and especially in our industry, and I know it's sales, but in hospitality, it's about how do we help people, right? So it's not just like, hey, can I get your business? It's like, how do I help you solve a problem? You're going to have a meeting. How can I help you in that process? Is that a fair statement, Jack? Is that another good takeaway?
You know what? You're the A student here today, Phil. No, serious business. Look. So many businesses help their employees, and they teach them all about the product and service. Well, if you then end up just puking all about the product and service on the prospect, you're appealing to the logic side of their mind. But what's interesting about selling is that the majority of sales are made based on emotion, not logic. And so what you really want to dig for is pains. You have to ask questions and listen. Where are the pains of my prospect? Where are the pains of my public? How can I put them into a state of pleasure? And if we could figure out how to do that, and by the way, initially, their pain points might not be what we represent in our company, but just help them solve those pain points, and they will bounce back and then say, hey, and there's a reason for us to do business on your side.
Yep, absolutely. Any closing comments, Jack? The more I talk to you, the more I'm ready to go make some phone calls myself right now. So, and even at my, I'll just say age, I will hope to be like you. But any closing comments for you, Jack?
Yeah,
any inspirational?
I'll give two.
Yeah.
Things that get measured get done, and so measuring becomes a very big item. I'll just show you evidentiary. If you were to go onto my website, as I mentioned, you would find my goals, and they look like this, and they're posted on my website. But I keep them in this day planner, and in this day planner, every day, I write down every single thing I did that day that relates to what I'm trying to accomplish in my personal life. And this at the back of the book are all of the key activities, month by month tracking. And then I can look at where I was last year for a year to year, month to month lookup. And that's what I'm doing on the personal side of my life. Can you imagine how I run my business, right? And so I learned early in my life, write it down. What do you want to accomplish? And then measure the key activities that get you closer to that. Now, here's the last piece that I would give you. I give these goals to 5 people at the beginning of each year that I call the board of directors of my life. And I say, I want you to call me up and we're going to go line by line on each one of those line items. And I want you to do that with me 4 times a year. So that's 5 people, 4 times a year, 20 times a year. There are 1 of 5 people saying, let's go through those goals. There isn't a month that goes by where somebody isn't holding me accountable. So my message to the listener, to the viewer is this: find people to hold you accountable to the things that you say that you want to achieve, and then measure whether you're actually doing the activities. And when you have the accountability board, don't pick people that are going to be easy on you. My wife, Bonnie, always wanted to be on my accountability board, and I refused to have her because she would let me go. She would say, "Oh, Jack, you do more than most people. Don't beat yourself up." I want people to beat me up. It takes me to another level.
Yep. That's awesome. And I just to reiterate, like the fact that you do that on your personal life, right? So whether it's, doing your 100th marathon or, whatever the case may be, that you apply those standards across your life. It's not just, I'm going to go do this for work and I'm going to make my quota, right? I'm actually going to live my life fullest as it can be. So
yeah. So like I could go on and on and on. I'm sorry, but look. 168. That's a big number. 168. Every single person starts the week with that same number, 168 hours. It's 24 times 7. But we don't actually get 168, do we? Because we sleep, let's say 8 hours a day. So that's 56 hours that just went away of the 168. And when you whittle it down, you're only left with about 40 to 60 hours to kind of put into your profession, to put into your work. So you better be very particular about what you do with those 40 to 60 hours. So, I've got this ambitious bucket list. And so I wanted to visit all the presidential libraries, right? Which I've done. I wanted to run a marathon in all 50 states, which I've done. I wanted to run a marathon in all the continents, which I've done. I wanted to play the top 100 golf courses. I played 95 of them. I wanted to run 100 marathons. I've run 97 of them. But what's interesting is I work with my business manager. And when I have a speaking gig somewhere, we let's say it's on a Friday. Well, we'll look for a presidential library, and we'll look for a marathon, and we'll look for a golf course. So you might find me speaking on Friday in the city, playing a top 100 golf course on Saturday, taking in the presidential library after golf, and on Sunday running the marathon and coming home. I'm optimizing my 168. The question would be, are you optimizing your 168?
That's a good close and something for everybody to take home with and really think about. And really, today's Thursday. So what are you going to do for your next, 168, right? So Jack, thank you so much to all of our followers. Thank you for participating today. And until next time, it's always about the art of the possible.